Hello, everybody. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC. Welcome into the Hive. And I see we got some people in the chat already. Welcome in Matthew Crust Life, Niels Han Dynasty, Space Miner, Silverboy Blues. Welcome in. Good to see you. Let's bring Ian in here. Ian, welcome in.
Hi there, LLC.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Enjoying some exceptional weather up in Wyoming and Idaho.
Good. Yeah, it's been nice here too. Nice fall weather. Not too hot, not too cold. But yeah. So how things been lately at ARK?
Yeah, pretty steady. It's ticking along would be a British way of saying it.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, Barbara, welcome in. Yeah. So what I see you were wondering about talking about the gold to silver ratio. What was on there?
It's so I've got a few clients, quite a few, always talking to me about the ratio, and one of them I had a fairly long call today, and he was saying all the experts he could find on YouTube were saying it will never get better than 60-to-1 ratio. And I thought, well, that doesn't fit any of the mathematics or any of the demand or the destruction of silver. Gold keeps growing in the available gold above ground in physical form. Silver's getting harder to mine. Being an epithermal deposit, surface or near surface, we've had the easy silver. It's, to me, looking at it from many angles, that ratio will correct back. Maybe it won't stay at 15-to-1, but I think it will touch it again at least.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, that's it's interesting you say that. I've heard people say it's epithermal, more up at the top of the crust, right?
Yeah, surface and near surface, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting to wonder how we're looking on that gold. So I know there's not very many pure silver mines.
No, and Keith Neumeyer, I mean, he states frequently that the mining ratio is between 7 and 8-to-1.
Right.
Yep. So, and then if you think, well, we're tying up or destroying at least half of that silver, I mean, that's another factor. If you look at the history of silver mining for the last 6,000 years, half of all the silver mined is now unavailable. It's been used up in tiny amounts, effectively destroyed.
Okay, yeah, very interesting.
Whereas gold just grows at about 1.6% per year.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, yeah, I know we've been even on the books running a deficit in silver for the last few years here. So.
Fourth year, yeah, with sort of 250 million ounce deficit now, and that seems to be becoming a structural issue, not just a changeover from industrial uses, drop or increase in investor demand. It seems to be going on into our fourth year now. And, with the new solid state battery or proven solid state battery technology now requiring silver in the anodes, we've got industrial uses that could claim a significant amount of the silver production.
Yeah, that's what
and then one thing a lot of people don't factor in is human action. There will be a panic exodus as currencies fail one by one. I mean, to a certain extent, China and India, their people are trying to exit into precious metals. I know in Turkey, with their high inflation, a lot of people sold cars, houses, and turned it into gold, and they've done very well. The inflationary or the currency collapse situation in those countries has benefited people who've exited into gold and silver.
No doubt.
So the human action, when you realize, there's not a lot else to switch into, that demand will drive the silver price drastically. And it might well be a perfect storm and coincide with a squeeze on industrial demand.
Yeah. I mean, it's about got to be. If the demand of one or the other picks up, we're already.
And then you factor in a large cost. So yes, you mentioned earlier there's very few actual silver mines. So I think it's about 20-25% of production comes from mines where over half of their product is silver. Their major cost is diesel. We've got world tensions now. Israel might take out some of the Iranian oil production facility. If it got really bad there, Iran might do a pre-strike. I don't think they're ready to launch a nuclear strike, but they could do something pretty close, would devastate the world. They could take out all of the surrounding nations' oil production. That would wipe out over half of the world's oil production. Can you imagine what the price of oil would be then, and hence the cost to mine silver?
Right. Yeah, no, that's it. And I've never experienced it, but I always hear that in the, this is the type of situation you get in, and it's getting to be worldwide, where there's going to be, in wartime, that's just a time that people go to the metals.
Yeah.
And now it's there's getting to be a worldwide crunch. So I can see that happening indeed.
And we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, the move in silver year on the rolling year is 40% at the moment. It was 50% a couple of days ago, and silver broke 32. But that's not really even started to give account for the currency debasement.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And it will.
Yeah.
We can't time it, but we can observe other countries, as the ruble collapses and the yuan and collapses. We can have the privilege of seeing what those nations do.
Yeah. That's it. That's funny. I got a little clip coming up talking about just that from a long time ago, how the nations will just inflate, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a system that relies on inflating the money supply, and the further down the road you get, the more you have to inflate it to stop the inevitable collapse. So all we do is delay the collapse and make it bigger.
Yep.
So the collapse is inevitable, whether we cease inflating, we'll get a catastrophic collapse, or we carry on inflating and we'll get an even worse catastrophic collapse.
Yeah, it took me a while to see both sides of that, but once you see it, it's pretty obvious. Yeah. So yeah, either way we go, a horrible crash, deflation, or the steady, and what's now not just steady, but I think it'll be increasingly, what do you call that, how the curve gains more and more?
Exponential.
Exponential.
Quite often called the hockey stick graph.
In fact, I should pull up, but I know, like the US debt clock, I mean, we're over 35.5 now. We were just talking about getting to 35 trillion. And then we're going to be pushing on 36 in no time here.
And I would say that actually would be manageable if that was our only problem. But it's not our only problem. It's the unfunded liabilities
that's
are going to cause more direct monetization of government debt.
Yeah.
So currency creation, not from nowhere, because it's not created from nowhere. It's created by stealing from all existing currency units.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yep. And I hear that Mineko, his video this morning was that China is selling securities and buying more gold. So that's been a steady thing, and then increasing, probably exponentially as well.
And their currency debasement, I saw a chart, I think I'm correct in saying in 1990, I think they were 1.4 or 1.5 trillion yuan. Now they are 300 trillion yuan that they admit to. And I saw this on a video, and they were showing Chinese people showing 100 yuan notes with the same serial number, and they were passing the forgery test. So these were actual notes with the same serial number issued by the Chinese, whoever prints the notes for the Chinese central bank. So their debasement might be even worse. Probably is, because the only information we get is from them.
Right.
Stating they've gone from 1.5 trillion yuan to 300. That's even more extreme than our monetary supply increase.
Yeah, it's probably tough to believe. And then they say that with gold too, everybody says they have a lot more gold than they're claiming. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they must do. I mean, if they mine, was it 400 tons a year that they admit to? You can bet your life as well, if they want the gold that their citizens hold, they'll just take it.
Yeah, that's what. Who is it? The Rich Dad Poor Dad author. What's his name?
Kawasaki.
Yeah. That's what he said. He said he had a mine over there, and they just, once he got it established, they just took it.
They nationalized it. Yeah.
Yep. And then, so what do you think about the platinum silver ratio?
Yeah, I've never really paid notice. I was just looking at ratios, and it's an all-time low. Platinum is an all-time low, historic low against silver, and silver is fairly close to an all-time low against gold. I mean, it's fairly peaky. I mean, it has gone higher briefly.
Right. They're both going though.
Yeah. So that's interesting. There could be a case to sell silver and buy platinum.
Well, I've heard. I just seen somebody the other day say that they were doing just that.
So, really interesting. So I was actually thinking about shifting some of our inventory. We sort of hold a core amount of ounces into more platinum.
Yeah, well, I know I just picked up a little bit myself. I got a Kookaburra. Just got the new Kookaburra in their 10th ounce series, so I picked up the latest in the series. So yeah, I think it's a good place to go as well. At these lows, welcome in Gerald Draper and Southeast Stacker. Good to see you, OC as well.
But it is hard to balance what to stack, isn't it? I mean, if you want to keep it simple, I think the fundamentals behind silver are undeniable.
Yep. And I think so too. I mean, that's where and it's easy to get into, and you get it in your hands, and that makes a difference as well. Just getting some in your hands, and then you can think about it and realize what it is and what's going on a little bit better. And or at least that helped me anyway. So that's definitely interesting. And then you also mentioned rhenium. What is this? I don't even know.
So rhenium sits between tungsten and osmium. So I have a friend, he did a fair bit of research on it and has been looking into it, and it looks very interesting. So I think we're actually going to experiment and start stocking it and make it available at bullion prices.
Wow, interesting.
We've done a bit of research, and it seems to be a lot of people are charging sort of double the commodity price for it. It's a tiny market. I mean, some literature says it's actually more scarce than osmium. I think it's more accessible and more easily mined, but it is an absolutely essential metal. No jet-powered plane can fly without it. They use it in an alloy in the turbine blades, because it's got the highest modulus of elasticity, so it will cope with infinite numbers of heat, expand and shrink from cooling.
Interesting.
It won't fail. So it has an indispensable use for jet engines, and probably in some military hardware as well. Plus, it could be a substitute for platinum as an anode in producing hydrogen from water. You need a very hard durable anode.
Okay.
It could potentially have a great use for that. So at the moment, it's trading for around 2.5 to 3 times the price of silver. Yet it's in the same scarcity league as osmium.
Wow.
That doesn't compute to me. Something seems to be. So,
wow. So you get bar form kind of, or what?
So we're going to buy it in pellet form. So that's the industrial use in 4.9 fine in pellets, and that's so that'll be easy to trade and verify and resell back into the market.
Interesting.
So yeah, we all try a bit of that.
Is is it like a shiny metal? Is it dull looking? What's it?
In the pellets, it's dull. In the sintered bars, it's sort of semi shiny, darkish grey.
Gray. Okay.
I think it can be crystallized. It doesn't look anywhere nearly as beautiful as the osmium, but it does make an interesting crystalline form as well.
Cool. Interesting.
So yeah, we're going to buy some and make it available so people can buy a little piece, and we'll see where it goes. But I think it's got great potential.
Okay, yeah, I have it that it's spelled RHENIUM. Is that right?
That's correct. 75 on the periodic table. Right. Sits between tungsten and osmium.
There you go. Cool. Yeah. I just even with this little pullback, it's silver is set to shine. Platinum is just staying steady, nowhere for forever now.
I know.
I'm just waiting for it to go one way or the other, and I think it could really jump, so I think it could take
I've heard a few people mention the price is suppressed because the Russian Federation is dumping it onto the black market. So they're selling it below its actual production cost.
Sure.
Because they're desperate to keep funding the war they started. So they're having to sell whatever they can to whoever they can, however they can.
It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, and it's been that steady price for quite a while. But with all the volatility everywhere else, it's just like,
it's interesting. 30 times, 40 times, 30 to 40 times rarer than gold. Less than half the price. Yeah, and arguably more use cases than gold.
Oh yeah. Sure.
It's a refractory metal because it's high melting point. It's an incredible catalyst. It's used for a lot of high-end chemical research for the vessels and tubing for moving gases and corrosive gases and liquids around. The medical uses are quite high. I've got a friend who's pretty in touch with the drug community, and they were saying there's a shortage of platinum-based drugs. And that doesn't make sense. If platinum is so cheap, why is there a shortage?
I heard that as well. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think once you've got a core position of silver, I think all of these metals, I think it's worth having a 1 or 2% of one's stack in them.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict, isn't it? We've seen palladium run, we've seen rhodium, we've seen other metals do crazy fast moves.
Yeah. Yep. Tin pulled a moonshot as well a year or two ago, and they had bags of or was it nickel? I'm sorry, nickel.
It was nickel. Yeah. And then the LBMA cancelled the day's trades because their favored brokers were, I think, $2 billion in the hole on the day.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. That's it. So I'm gonna show a little clip here on that subject, just to show, and that's kind of everybody has their own little position view on the breakdown of things that are thinking about it, and I have mine, and I'm going to show a little bit, but the thing with what I'm seeing is that this plan, this thing that's happening, which to me is a plan, goes back a long ways, further back even than this little clip I'm going to show you here. But it's just, I find it interesting what was being said. Here we go. Seeing that? Okay.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied naturally and automatically by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government, which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world.
1958.
Oh my. Now, if somebody had asked AI to create a speech talking about what was happening now, it would be pretty close to that, wouldn't it?
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's, and you sent me a letter with that little quote that you had, that about politics, like get them to argue amongst.
That was Montague Norman. We will allow the people to have their political parties so they expend their energy over matters of no importance whilst we form an imperialism to rule the world.
There you go.
Yeah, that was 1924.
There you go. So
there are layers and layers of control and manipulation.
Yeah. And so then this is only a year old, let me share this little gem with you. Many of you know some of this stuff, but it's just for anybody who doesn't. Okay.
Lots of agendas, you could say. What is Agenda 2030? Explain it to us.
So very much like the central planners of the last century, the UN likes to do things in bite-sized chunks. The communists and the Soviet Union used to have 5-year plans. Well, the UN's got 15-year plans. So prior to the Agenda 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals, they had the Millennium Development Goals. Those covered from 2000 up to 2015. Agenda 2030 covers from 2015 to 2030. Again, it's a comprehensive plan over every area of our lives. It's kind of a subset of Agenda 21. And as the leaders of the United Nations made clear while this was being debated and adopted, they intend to leave no one behind. Actually, the head of the General Assembly, when this was being negotiated, Peter Thompson, called this the Master Plan for Humanity. humanity. The Secretary General at the time, Ban Ki-moon, called it the Global Declaration of Interdependence, which I believe was a direct attack on our national Declaration of Independence here in this country. So very, very significant. Again, it deals with every area. It deals with your health. It deals with the environment. It deals with our food systems. It deals with education. It deals with every possible area of life, very much like the Great Reset that the World Economic Forum would later propose. And so all of these actually work together. That's what people need to understand. None of these are independent. They're all working together, ultimately for the same objective, which we described earlier in the program, a one world system where the sovereignty of nation states would be gone, individual liberty, especially as recognized in our country as coming from our creator, would be abolished. And people need to be paying attention to this. We need to be having a national discussion about it. And yet there are very few places where you'll hear anything about this when it comes to newspapers and television, with a handful of obvious exceptions like NTD.
So
wow, that's making Project 2025 look quite tame, isn't it?
yeah. And so, just in those first clips, he talks about, and I've known this for a while, and we're going to show another clip or two that gets into it. First, before I get into it, Gerald was asking about rhenium. Is it as dark as rhodium, similar in color, but hey, it's okay, we'll look it up. So is it
I haven't actually got any physical. I've been looking at different suppliers. So the most cost-effective way to buy it is in the pellets. So I'd say it's a mid to dark gray in a sort of a matte sort of color. Nothing special to look at, but I'm just interested in its use cases, particularly in jet engines, in the turbines, and I think it's vastly underpriced for what it is and what it does and its availability.
Okay, cool. And so then, I talked in there about breaking up of the state lines, and whatnot. And I've been knowing they've been saying that they were going to do that. And I wondered before all this stuff started happening, like, how are they going to do that? It's seeming to be a little bit more clear now, but most people probably know about this. And this is just, I think, sectioning off to certain, designations. They have the 10 or so sections here. But it's just interesting to hear those things and then see this type of structure form at times, So yeah, and then let me see okay, so this is kind of a good little clip here. Let me share. So this is a little bit unusual live here, guys. I'm gonna show you some clips, so hang with me. It's gonna be a little unusual, but I feel like I want you guys to know that, you guys at least have this information as well. And if you haven't seen this channel, he has a lot of great stuff he's been putting out later. A little homestead channel, Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. Great channel.
Okay. So I'm going to give you guys some great information in this video. Don't go anywhere. But first, I want you to imagine this is the year 1992. While you're looking at this tree represents 1992. Okay? That tree represents 1992.
Is known presents us with an opportunity to follow up on the important work of the Earth Summit to develop its blueprint, Agenda 21, for global environmental action. HCON Res 353 outlines a comprehensive national strategy for sustainable development in accordance with the principles of Agenda 21 to be coordinated under the leadership of a specific office and at the direction of a high-level government official. The resolution also urges the United States to identify and initiate further agreements to protect the global environment and to support the creation of a high-level United Nations Sustainable Development Commission headed by an Undersecretary General. Third and lastly, the President is urged to report to Congress on the progress made on with this action. HCON Res 353 is supported by the administration. I have been in contact with the appropriate offices of the State Department and have incorporated their suggestions into the resolution. The 71 co-sponsors of this measure include one-half the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee and all of the House delegates to the Earth Summit. It is also supported by the major United States non-governmental organizations
SGO
concerned with the environmental issues. The Earth Summit presented world leaders with an opportunity that should not be lost. We must now embark on a new course that will sustain our planet and its resources for the benefit of future generations. This resolution calls on the United States to assert its leadership to achieve this goal. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution. Thanks again to the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee for the recognition of the importance and timeliness of this resolution. We must make the promise of Rio a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
In 1992, Henry Lamb was trying to warn people about the agenda. Okay, I've been trying to let you guys know that there's actually an agenda taking place, and they don't really care if you like it or not, even if you're in America with the Constitution and everything. But he tried to warn everybody about Agenda 21, that the United Nations and everybody else had settled on this, and they were putting it into place. Roll the tape.
On the radio and in audiences like this, Mr. Lamb, there's no such thing as a global agenda. Hey, friend, you're absolutely wrong. Here it is. It's called Agenda 21. Agenda 21, the primary document presented in Rio de Janeiro and adopted by more than 100 heads of state, including George Bush, which lays out in intricate detail all of the transformation that must take place in society in order for it to become sustainable.
So yeah, Gerald, I agree. I'm just kind of laying a basis to show, you know, this is a timeline that's been going back and established. And so, because I got some stuff coming up that if I didn't go through some of this, it'd look like I'm just pulling things out of a hat. So yeah, just give me a bit of time here.
Sustainable as they define sustainability. This may be available at the United Nations bookstore. I had to pick this up. I had not seen one until last July, had not been able to get one. I happened to be in Geneva attending a United Nations meeting, and I went to the bookstore and bought the thing. So the parties held its first meeting in Nassau last December. At that first meeting, the United Nations Environment Program presented them with a global biodiversity assessment. Started in 1992 with a grant from the Global Environment Facility for $3.3 million, orchestrated and coordinated by the World Resources Institute and the World Wildlife Fund and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. This is 1,140 pages that explains how to implement the 16-page treaty on biodiversity. The last 200 pages, section 13, deals specifically with a system of protected areas. It defines what a system of protected areas is. It includes core wilderness areas surrounded by buffer zones, similar to those used in the biosphere reserves, created under a UNESCO program and promoted by the United States Man in the Biosphere program. There are 382 biosphere reserves around the world, 47 of which are in the United States, not under authority of any treaty, but by voluntary agreement with the United Nations. These biosphere reserves are to be the nucleus for the core wilderness area. Scratching my head here, what on earth is going on? And then I stumbled on page 993, and friends, if you don't think that's some heavy reading at night, page 993, after describing these protected areas, sums it all up by saying, the recently published Wildlands Project in the United States is the central theme of protected area. And on page 15 of the Wildlands Project, Dr. Reed Noss says that we must convert at least 50% of the land area of North America to wilderness, off limits to human beings.
50%.
Those core wilderness areas are to be interconnected by wilderness corridors, off limits to human beings. Those wilderness areas are to be surrounded by buffer zones that may have limited resource use under the supervision and permitting of the federal government, in collaboration with non-government organizations. Human population is to be resettled into the remaining 25% of the land, into communities that are described as sustainable communities. Now let me put a parenthesis right here for a moment. He created what he called a White House task force on ecosystem management. He called 20 federal departments together and said, you will create an ecosystem management policy, and you will implement the ecosystem management policy throughout the federal government, Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Education, throughout the federal government. They developed what they called multimedia enforcement. Where they run into a problem with a community that will not accept this ecosystem management concept, multimedia enforcement means that all 20 federal agencies descend on the community and begin inspections and writing tickets. I couldn't believe it.
The document calls for literally reducing the human population by as much as 2/3 to 3/4 in the next 30 to 50 years. It could set aside up to 1/2 of the American landscape into wilderness areas interconnected by wilderness corridors, all surrounded by human buffer zones in which human activities are highly regulated. That is very, very clear in these United Nations documents that they want to set up a regulatory structure that would affect every man, woman, and child on planet Earth. And all of the control would be headquartered in the United Nations. And if we take the more recent United Nations documents, it's going to be called the Trusteeship Council in the restructure of the United Nations that's occurring right now. And the Man of the Biosphere program, as revealed in the U.S. State Department documents as well as UNESCO documents, clearly show that the Man of the Biosphere program actually is the first step in implementing the Convention on Biological Diversity. And there are 47 of these Man of the Biosphere program around this nation that occupy about 51 million acres of U.S. soil.
World Heritage Sites are many of our national parks. In fact, 68% of our national parks land base is now under UNESCO's World Heritage Site. And that includes the symbol of independence in America, the Independence Hall, the Statue of Liberty, Yellowstone National Park, Monticello, Carlsbad Cavern, and the American people didn't even realize this was happening.
This is 2024. It's a great illustration. If you let those little baby trees go without getting them addressed, they're going to cause you damage. This one's going to rip out my fence if I don't get it cut. So I thought that was a great.
So there's that. And then I'm going to show this map that actually shows what they think North America should be divvied up into. And so the red is core reserves and corridors, little to no human use. The yellow is buffer zones, highly regulated use. And the blue is normal use zones of cooperation, I think is what that says. The pink is Indian reserves. This brown's the border. But anyway, they kind of like they were saying, plan on, this is something that they're planning and actively working towards. While other things may be going on, this has been something that's been trying to be enacted for quite a while. So, I just think that we should know that, because I don't think it's really put out there in that way. People don't necessarily think about those things in that way, and I didn't either, and I don't want to, but that it's kind of crazy. Words we are hearing. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a really old tape for sure. But yeah, and I can show some more stuff here with these latest hurricanes. I don't know, did you hear much or see much about the damage in North Carolina and Tennessee?
My wife's been keeping up with it. She's got quite a few friends in that area, so yeah, it's bad.
That's what I'm hearing. It's like
and like 100-mile bad. It's not just one one area. It's 100-mile wide or wider zones of devastation.
Exactly. So I'm going to show this as well. So that shows kind of in the background. I'm not going to play this one, but I'm going to show. So this zone here in North Carolina, that whole swath, basically right through the state, and then above that is Tennessee. That's just ungettable to. Like, it's just, from what I hear anyway, I haven't been there, but pretty much took out roads for miles long all the way, and though it's a mountainous area, so it's hard to get in and out of, without a good road. So but I hear it took out that whole swath pretty healthily. So, and then I don't know if you've heard about there's been talk about people trying to get stuff in and FEMA not letting them because they're not part of the governing body that should, is supposed to be going in there. So they're stopping them. So, but then the other part of that is, and you say, well, that's, understandable, but then they're, and it's hard to say, we'll have to see, but it's sounding like they may not be getting as much help as you might have thought they might get, so.
Although all of the Republican governors have said they've got everything they need.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's kind of, you get two stories. You get one, that seems to be people that like live around the area. They're very concerned. They were trying to get in to help, and they've been told to step down. And then they know that they're, from what they can see, the progress is being stopped that could be had. And then, the rescues that you might think that they would put on just don't seem to be as good or as fast as they should. So, and I'm not there, so I don't know. But it just makes you wonder. And then you hear them openly talk about these things where they're wanting to take over new areas and this and that, and it's
I mean, going back to Katrina in Louisiana, there was a lot of people lost their land, their homes were destroyed, and then under the various counties laws, if you don't maintain your lot, the county can seize it. So a lot of people not only lost their structure, but they actually lost their land. And so you can definitely see using these storms and disasters to steer towards a bit like that dystopian map that you showed of taking.
Right. I mean, and so this is one that. So this is the
spread silently within herds. Gradually.
This is the event 201 that I talk about. I'm so surprised that not a lot of people don't know about this, but this for me was a kind of a helped as a wake-up call for me. But so this was held in 2019 before the whole outbreak, and it's an event where these leaders from all areas of medical and monetary, you'll see them, I'll show you, they sit around in a circle and talk about, well, what if we had an outbreak of some sort like a flu? And well, I'll show you this little commercial here, and then they talk about, how would we best handle this? And they just talk about how to best control the world from their vantage point. And so I don't know, for me that was kind of shocking. So I'm going to run this commercial. This was in just 2019, right before 2020.
Farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we
see how they have here. They have the date. They have the financial markets over here. They have, they're gonna run this through their computer modulations, and they're just treating it like it's a real life thing, and they're gonna, best control it.
We could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
Can only be solved by global. Together.
We have known about caps-like viruses in animals and people for decades, but have not been successful at developing a licensed vaccine. And sure, there are new technologies that may help, but it's going to be difficult. I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
So the policy crisis in question for this board in this meeting is this: how should governments, business, and international organizations allocate and distribute pandemic antivirals and medical supplies to the people who need the most?
What we've seen work very well in the HIV field is, in fact, procurement through the Global Fund. So having a centralized mechanism, so financially able to procure on behalf of affected countries can be critical. I think the second thing is it's going to be very important that for the business sector, for manufacturers of antivirals, that we have clarity around what the need is and where the need is and who are making the decisions.
I think that given that the countries most affected are those that are low and middle income countries with unequal access to technology, to finances, the UN has a worldwide footprint, universally recognized, and universal membership.
A global stockpile would certainly help ensure more rational and strategic allocation, but the reality is that we don't have the logistics capability, even within the UN, to bring that together in one place and run it. So this is where I think a collaboration between the international organizations like the World Health Organization and the private sector, which runs these supply chains for many purposes every day, understand where the supplies are, make smart decisions about how to allocate them to the people who need them in the places that need them the most, and then work with the industry to move those supplies from where they are today to where they need to be.
Just to underscore the point that cooperation among supply chain providers or businesses that have huge supply chains can add a lot of efficiency to the whole process.
The question is, can you?
So anyway, they continue on and go around and war game it out, and it goes on. It's like a 3 or 4 day, week-long event, and they keep war gaming it, and some they'll say, oh, a certain member couldn't make it today because they're battling the illness. I mean, they try to treat it, like, oh, this is a real thing, and they talk about, oh, well, we'll just have to shut these small businesses down so that we can regulate the traffic through our businesses that we control, so that we can control, it's like, and then like a month or two later, boom, you have this worldwide, it kicks off.
Interestingly, I mean, from articles I've seen, it was out in Italy and Spain early on in 2019.
Yeah.
One from Spain, I think it was Barcelona. It was a big Spanish city, and they accurately monitor the wastewater coming into the treatment plants and out of the treatment plants for viruses to make sure they are killing them. And their data showed it, I think it was in August, and I might be getting these mixed up. And in Italy, they were doing heart disease research and were taking blood samples randomly from the whole population demographics. So they have a very good blood samples. And I think that was showing 10% infection in April 2019.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And this information is just, no one seems to have ever heard of it. But obviously they're using this, it was multi-leveled intentions, I'm sure. One was to destroy as many small businesses as possible.
Yeah.
But two was to reduce population. And three, probably reduce the burdensome people, the people that weren't working, that were claiming benefits. And they did a pretty good job on that side of it, for sure. I mean, whether a lot of the people working for the agencies actually have good intentions, but if you can follow just the basic science and biology, the best thing would have been to give everybody vitamin C and zinc and ivermectin or quinine, so you can absorb the zinc, and tell people better get fit, stop eating crap and start eating healthy food. That would have saved more people. We wouldn't have needed a shutdown. But I don't think the system wants a physically healthy population. They want a functioning population, but they definitely don't want a healthy population. Because if when you're in a physically healthy state, usually most people are thinking a lot clearer. But when you're in an unhealthy state, eating unhealthy food, you can't think as clearly. and you're much more likely to be manipulated and controlled. So yes, I would say it was definitely intentional. It might have leaked earlier than was intended. That's possible.
And it's just like you say, it's using the events. That's the thing. And talking and coming from a control room in which nobody's elected, nobody gave oversight that they had power to rule the world.
Exactly. I mean, the head of the World Health Organization is still that Tedros guy, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
He is a failed Marxist from Ethiopia. Now, I have nothing against Ethiopians. I have a lot against Marxists, ideology and enforcing it on people. But he's a failed Marxist. What was he doing in charge of the World Health Organization? And for a long, long time, would not even look critically at China. For a long, long time. Just ignored what was actually going on. And yet he's still there, I think, isn't he? He's still the head of the World Health Organization.
Last I checked, I haven't looked in a while.
You wonder if there's one club that all of these sub clubs belong to.
Oh, for sure.
And do they make it so complicated that you got UN, you got oh my gosh, they go on and on, isn't it? The 3 and 4 letter named bodies. The bulk of them are unelected, unknown.
That's it. I mean, they put all of the focus on, it's, like the news will have whatever it is they want to focus completely off. And then they might slip in something about, like there's everybody's kind of signed off on this new, if there's another health outbreak. Now, I think there's people putting up bills against this, but most of the nations, if you look, signed off on it and said
that they've signed away sovereign choices to the World Health.
All the guy has to say, yes, I think this is a national emergency, and boom, it's in place. And
I can't see that working here in rural Idaho.
Well, it makes you wonder, and I don't know either, and I hate to conjecture, but with these, there. In fact, I want to just show you this clip right quick, just to show you. I have it here, so I might as well show it. It's on this subject, so
we better bring this back round to some cheery subjects on
right.
soon, I think.
So,
I mean, Gerald's got an interesting comment there.
Okay, let me read it right quick. So I'm gonna jump straight to the interesting part here. What's Gerald saying? That's the thing. That's gonna be part of it.
Coming to a theater near you soon. Yeah.
Got it, like with a beehive, you gotta get the hive swarmed and out of the hive. That's what when all the bees are outside of the hive and not in the hives because they're upset, they're agitated. You got to get everybody swarmed. You got to get the hive swarming, and then you can move things. Then you can do things, and so you probably have you heard about Agent Orange where they seeded clouds and rained on the Vietnamese so that they couldn't. That's the story I heard about
Well, Agent Orange was a defoliant.
Okay, well, have you heard about where they made it rain on the Vietnamese?
Yeah. I mean, cloud seeding with silver iodine, isn't it? Silver oxide.
Yeah. There's that, and you also know probably about HARP. I'm just kind of bringing up some things that probably most people have heard of and know about, that they are openly trying and have manipulated the weather, at least in, some ways. And this.
And then again, if you think that's not possible, here is a patent that that I've shared on the community on a community page here. But if you just look in here, this is a patent by Andrew Womansky. It says hurricane and tornado control device. And so this is basically emitting frequencies to the left and to the right of these storms, can help steer, guide, and to probably intensify, but there's technology for that. And so if you read, which you can't, but if you actually go, let me see. So the patent is US 2003 0085 or whatever. You see it right here. Go look it up. And I posted it on the Telegram.
So there's that too, where, I just worry sometimes when I look at these things, and the focus seems to be, if the vote doesn't come through this way, something bad may have. Well, I mean, there's also a misdirection game to be played, and bad cop, good cop. I'm not saying that's what this is, but that's a documented thing. Good cop, bad cop, but they're both cops. And though you'd rather ride with the good cop to the jail, you're still going to the jail, no matter which cop's car you get into. It's so that's what more kind of my worries behind, this is in play already.
There was definitely a psychological operation, and we know, I mean, the British military have a psychological operations unit, so does the US, and they were activated against their own populations.
Yeah, that's what I.
The US military was used against the US population, and the British military was used against the British population, and it was a psychological operation, and part of that was to bring out a level of fear to take people off their normal baseline of existence, get them scared, and let them calm down, but not get back to that ordinary calm level, and then scare them again. And if you do that enough times, people will do anything or accept anything to make pain go away, or the thought of pain go away.
Yeah,
and that's what Gerald mentioned there. And this is how the CBDC will be brought in.
That's what I think too.
There'll be a financial disaster. Your cards won't work. You won't be able to fill up with gasoline. You won't be able to pay your bills. You won't be able to pay your rent. Your employer won't be able to pay you. Or if you're an employer or a business, you won't be able to pay suppliers. Everything will grind to a halt. And then the solution will be, Fed now. It's, And
I think they'll use, just like if you listen into those Event 201 and you pay attention to what they're saying, they're kind of giving you their blueprint, and they're saying
it's not even hidden. It's in plain sight.
It's right. And they're saying we're going to get control of these supply lines. And that's what makes me think, and they're going to come up with some type of ID system to where if you don't have this right ID, you can't access this supply line, because we're in an emergency situation. We've got immigrants, and there's scare threats, and we've had attacks, and so because of the flood of the border, or whatever they make as the story, we got control. Come get your food here, but get your new ID first, or we don't want.
I mean, it's getting close, isn't it, with the adoption of the mobile phone?
That's it. That's what
your phone number is a unique, non-repeating, can't be forged, can't be duplicated. It's a perfect built-in tracking.
The thing that gets me
and
about
if you use it, you're giving up your location is shown.
True.
And it's always, everything is always asking you to turn on your location, isn't it? We will give you extra services,
and you can't even hardly have a bank account unless you have a phone.
No, you need a phone number. Yeah. So we're there already, really. So it's
I think it's going to keep winding, and the money thing is going to keep getting out of hand, a little worse and worse, and we're starting to see it really run and gold. I think silver's starting to show that it's going to take its shoes off here, or put its shoes on, one way or the other.
Put its running shoes on.
Yeah. And I don't, that's sadly, but I mean, it's just, to me, it's too visually high probability that I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and so going back to what you were saying about the forming of those wilderness zones and the connection zones, I saw a documentary where they've got a plan laid out for eminent domain for private companies to take over 5% of American farmland, and this is to build solar farms, wind farms, and a connecting grid to send power to dense urban areas on the East Coast. And that So all that sort of fits in a bit of that plan, because with the eminent domain law, you can't say no, I'm not selling, and it's a private company will be buying it, and they'll be buying way in excess of what they actually need. And even in America, to have that law that a private company can force a private individual to sell them something.
Yep.
I mean, that's fascist, communist. What it's not American, is it? It's like somebody should be right. No, I'm selling. This is my farm. This is my house. This is my field. This is my forest. Go away. It's like,
yep.
If they need something, it should be by negotiation, however inconvenient, you know.
Yeah.
And you can understand on some necessary highway improvements, possibly. You can understand,
right?
But the risk is, the argument is, it's for the greater good, and this is the foundational lie that dictatorships are built on. It's for the bulk of the people who benefit, so therefore the person who doesn't benefit, tough. That once you start using that rule, it gets expanded and expanded and expanded till you end up, you know, Animal Farm. The pigs take over. Like,
yep. Yeah, the who's they, Barbara. Well, it's those that are in these Agenda 21 meetings, and those that are above them, and the UN, and these establishments that have owners above them, and the BIS. Look there and above that.
It's those leading financiers that Montague Norman spoke about in 1924. I mean, look that speech up, Barbara. They were openly boasting of a group of leading financiers forming an imperialism to rule the world, and how successful they were even in 1924. These are the ultimate people, and their motivation is control. So ever increasing control of resources and populations.
Yep.
So that's the they, and the bulk of it is, the bulk of the control is financial. And we've entered a new gilded age now, with the top 0.1% owning 90% of all assets, or that sort of extreme distortion. And then it's very, very easy to steer that. I mean, why has Bill Gates been buying up all of the farmland?
Yeah. Well,
you know, maybe they stuck one of Elon Musk's neuro sensors into him, and he's going to hand it all over to become wilderness. You know? It's like,
yep. Well, Barbara, I think that's kind of like the Montague.
Well, we don't know who to vote against, because we're allowed the political parties, so we expend our energies fighting each other over matters of no importance, whilst they form an imperialism to rule the world.
Right, and
it does not matter if anybody, any party or leader of a party became a genuine threat to derail any of these long-term agendas, they're no longer useful. They will expire one way or the other.
Yeah. If you look on this map here, you said push everything to the southeast, and look at, that's where they have, looks like all the population is
right
on the east there.
Well, it's not going to work in Florida, is it? If they keep having hurricanes,
well, or
be on permanent evacuation.
look at where they have this heavy, all this red here, where there's no go. I mean, that's where that hurricane. What if they just hold that? Now they have it. See?
Yeah.
Because they've already see, and that's the other thing that people talk about. Oh, well, if who gets in the offices? Well, they've already handed it over to FEMA. That was another clip I have up, but they when the emergency happens, FEMA is in control.
Yeah.
It's an open, that's been on the news before. Now the exact video I was looking for, I can't find, but there was one that talked about a few states but there was a time under couple years ago where the whole states went boom under their hands, and it was President Trump was there. He was in office. He was sitting at the table, and he handed it over.
Yeah.
And you know, why we can say, well, he wasn't aware of what he's aware now, and okay, I hope that's the case, but you also got to keep in mind that good cop bad cop scenario.
Sure.
Possibility.
Yeah. I think the majority of the population is just being played and manipulated.
Right.
So yeah, what's the antidote? Woo.
Right. Well, I
it's
think
building up resilience and building up not being dependent on government is a good start, isn't it?
That's it. Yep. I think a lot of it is mental. I mean, you could call it a spiritual war mostly, in my opinion, or you could call it a mental attack, like, the Operation Mockingbird. I mean, the government admits to doing these programs, and and when I run through my head the things that are being thrown at our society here in America over the last few years, I cannot say that that's anything but psychological warfare. Like,
no, and I very strongly believe it's on a spiritual level. It's demonically motivated, influenced, and controlled, varying degrees. I think it has to be, because the results of these projects, plans, do not benefit humanity.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. At least the bottom half that they want to exterminate.
Well, the bottom 90%, yeah.
But yeah, it's not to be, and I'm not trying to I don't want anybody to be scared of it or anything. I mean,
No.
me having my opinions is going to do nothing to change one way or the other. But I think that, I want to try to bring in and at least have the knowledge that this is a possibility and a thing that's been followed for many, many years, so this would be and I see them coming out with their and like a conspiracy theory. Like, if you say that, it's supposed to mean nonsense, but like a conspiracy theory is a common everyday occurrence amongst most people, like conspiring is just, that's what we do. that's how you make a plan and move forward. But it's like, oh, no one would dare to conspire to come up with a plan to take over the world. It's like, well,
no, I mean, I was talking to my dad about it, and just a thought came to me in my mind when you see the evils of Mussolini, of Hitler, of Mao, of Stalin. You see the evils that will just literally exterminate millions or tens of millions of people without even thinking it's a problem. Of course, you will get people who will try to take over the world financially.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, the part of it, I think, is getting yourself. This is going to be the best tool that I can see coming for the job ahead, as far as that's concerned. Doesn't mean it's going to solve all your problems, but it's not a bad thing to have. I know the people that just went through that hurricane. Water is a big thing. Have it if you can. On backup, water and food, and but silver and gold and precious metals, even that we haven't maybe thought of, like rhenium, all these things are gonna be better than holding on to our deflating currency. So,
well, it gives one choices that you wouldn't having wealth stored in other means.
Yeah,
it's about the only thing left that's private. And that privacy factor, I don't think people realize, as well as being financial insurance, wealth protection, purchasing power protection, that the privacy. I think we will look back when we enter into the CBDC and the growing control to have assets that you can gradually spend outside of that system will have immense value.
Yep. Cool. Well, yeah, I got myself some new easels. What do you got for silver deals for them?
What have we got? We've got lots of sovereign coins. We've got Philharmonic at $2 premium. backdate Philharmonics.
Let me pull up your backdate Philharmonics. Nice.
Yeah. I can get one out in case people have never seen one.
Have you ever seen the famous organ on the back of there that they have? Isn't that an organ on the back of it, I think, or something like that, whatever they're called?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a beautiful coin with a non-ribbed edge.
Yeah, that is the unique thing about them is they have a smooth edge out there. Huh?
Yeah, it was only, I think the Britannias from around 2014 and older had the smooth edge. We have, I think we showed these last time. These are going very well. We have the 1 1/4 ounce St. Helena Rose Crown Shield Guineas.
Nice.
So we have these as low as $1.25 over spot. So that's actually less than a Buffalo round.
Man, that's a deal
for a minted coin.
For an actual coin. Yeah, that's not down. That's a coin. That's a great deal.
And we have lots and lots of 10-ounce bars. Any round collectors? We have got some nice First Majestic. We talked about Keith Neumeyer earlier.
Oh, cool.
So we have some of his rounds.
I like Keith.
Yeah, he's independent thinking for sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I always like listening to him. He was one of the first to hold back the metal at times.
He's done that several times, and that's not easy when you're a listed company.
That's what I've heard.
You know, if it goes wrong,
right, then you're
you end up investigating for not doing the best for your shareholders. But I think one of the reasons we've seen 32 is such a battle for silver to take and hold. I think there's a psychological and a monetary point that the silver mines will be making so much fiat cash at a time where the fiat cash is losing its purchasing power. They will choose to keep some of their money and not sell it for fiat.
Yeah.
And then a 250 million ounce deficit against a 900 or 900 million ounce production, that production could cut 10, 20 million ounces if the silver miners started holding back some of the production. You know, and then and also I think it's coming soon. Mexico and Peru are going to nationalize their metal production.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me to see.
In fact, really, they would be doing the best for their country. Can you imagine if America was drilling and producing oil and selling it at $10, getting $10 to a foreign company?
No, totally. I think.
Whereas if we took over our own oil production, we could sell it for 70.
Yeah, I think that there's.
So, you know, Mexico could take over all of their silver production, hold back the supply, and then say, well, we'll sell when it's 300. You know, give us a call when it's $300.
Right.
And it would be pretty quick. So why won't they do that? They probably will at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. It might still happen, right? Yeah.
But yeah, it is, you know, the first time you hold a chunk of silver and you just feel that density.
Yep.
And then you start looking at the silver content of coins, different countries. You know, it's right around us. The history is being written, and I think time is accelerating. The rate of change is going to increase.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's kind of,
you know, I think we're going to see a lot more so-called quantitative easing. I mean, why don't they just call it currency debasing or counterfeiting? Like,
right. I love
quantitative easing. It's not liquidity.
Exactly.
It's cheating. It's theft of all existing dollars.
Exactly. That's what. There's so much of that nowadays. Yeah, and that it's like
give it a name that people think, oh yeah, you sound really like you know what you're talking about.
Right,
Just call it what it is. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, hey there, Neil's popped. I haven't seen Neil in the comment for a while.
Welcome in. Yeah. So I got some nice dark ones now, and I got an iron I can burn in my logo there.
Oh, cool.
On my easels. So, yeah. Just need to put some silver with them and you're set.
So yes, Silver Boy Blues, we have lots and lots of these. We should have a supply for.
Ah, I just dropped you out. Say that
That's
again.
right.
I'm sorry.
We have a big supply of these, so we're gonna hold some back for our loyal customers. So we're not going to sell them all in a rush.
Nice.
And we do have some half-ounce New Zealand coins coming in soon as well. I don't even know what they're going to be till they arrive, but we have a large quantity of those as well.
Okay. New Zealand, huh? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
New Zealand. I'm trying to think of a New Zealand coin.
It's the Niue mint.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yep, there you go. That helped me.
Oh, you've got your osmium triangle up there.
Yeah, and I got it on the back. Oh, that's the back of it, right?
Really?
Now. Yep. It's,
you found another piece with crystalline.
It's pretty crystalline there,
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's the microscope is helping me out quite a bit there. But yeah, I noticed that it's got some sparkle to it, indeed. Let's flip it over and see what it looks like on the other side here with my trusty tool, if I can.
Oh, now you're talking.
Oh, there we go.
Whoa, your microscope's doing good.
There we go. Yeah, let me see if I can get a better. Ooh, let me tighten that up. My bad. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, that's cool. And then we can adjust our lightage a little bit.
Is that a tiny little leg on the top left corner there?
Yep.
Tiny little spike of osmium from the cutting.
Yep. Yes, it is. And it's kind of I think it's like a 3, so it's fairly thick too if I turned it on its edge, but
yeah.
Yep. Cool. Well, I think that's what I got for you tonight. You got anything else you want to throw in?
There's a lot to think about there. You drowned us with there's a lot of content there for the rest of the year.
Right.
And I think the thing is not to get scared about it, not to get to feel helpless, because everybody can do something. And
yeah,
and for me personally, it was starting to stack 2017.
Yep.
And that was driven from the financial side. But from that, I've been watching specifically Mineko 64, the books he recommended. You start reaching into other areas. It's all interconnected. There's a complex web of control out there.
Yep. Yes, indeed. It goes deep, and a lot of it connects to money. And I think that might be it's weird how I came into silver. It was not because of money, it was more looking at other things, and that brought me into money. And it's quite. I mean, everything. It kind of everything connects to it. I guess that's why it says that in the Bible, right? So
yeah, and I found so many solutions to the average person. Trying to survive and prosper going forward. The answer just kept coming back to silver, and so many problems throughout history where people suffered was when people didn't actually have real money in their hands.
Yep. Yeah, and boy, that's interesting looking back in through history. I mean, we started out with good gold and silver coinage, and it was solid for quite a while there, and then the debasement happened. Then it was like the Dark Ages, or what's told to us as the Dark Ages anyway.
Yeah.
And there was just the silver coins at the time were like wafer thin little, and so it's interesting to watch the flux. And now you can buy it cheaply, but I think that's we're going to look back at this time, and it'll be like, whoa, I mean,
when if you price it, if you count the 55 times more currency we have in the world now than we did in 1980, silver and the depletion of silver stockpiles, but just say there's the same amount of silver, 55 times more currency, yet silver is still only $30, $31 compared to $50 peak in 1980 and 2011. So theoretically, if it was 55 times more expensive, it'd only be making up for that currency debasement.
Right.
Yep. You know, and obviously part of that extra currency is genuine increase in wealth. There's genuinely more people, you know, if wealth is a measure of stuff, I guess.
Right.
If it's a measure of buildings and cars and roads, you name it. But not 55 times more.
Yeah. 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 Oh, Space Miner's in here. I'm going to show him the, so I found a little clip on this is not who keeps the silver to chicken ratio, but I found this clip and I thought it was funny and works well. So let me play this here.
$8 at the sale barn. Chickens are going high dollar, right? And he said that he knows somebody in the chickens, you know, that does them real heavy, that says you're going to be paying $25 per chicken coming up.
$25 per chicken, Space Miner, and that was in 2023. So and silver was about 25, depending on when you're looking. So there's your chicken
to the ounce of silver. I mean, we laugh, but that's the better way to look. Look at ratios. Look at the historic how things move. You know, I mean, I always quote the ounces of silver to the average U.S. house. It was 1,500 ounces to the average U.S. house for a week or two in 1980.
Oh,
we will see that again. I mean, at the moment, that is, I mean, $30 an ounce plus a premium. It's under $50,000 now will equal the average US house again.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people ask me, well, when do I sell? What do I buy? You know, and it is look at these ratios.
Right. Yep. That's what me and Space Miner were talking about a little bit, is we need to start keeping our eye on other ratios to keep a grip on things. So we joke about the chicken to silver ratio. All right. Well, cool. I think that's all I had for you for tonight. Yeah. And I wonder. Oh, I also had a live. So that hurricane should be hitting. I know I have
now, isn't it, Milton?
About right now. Should we
take
live?
It's hard to comprehend, isn't it? I mean, you might have just got back, started clearing out all your wreck stuff, stripping off the sheetrock, piling it all up in the street, and now you've got to evacuate again. It's heartbreaking. I can't.
And they had to make up there at the beginning a new category. It was a CAD 6 there for early on.
It was beyond the definition of a 5 for a while, was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, my lives isn't loading now, but okay, I'll bring it up then. I don't know why it's not loading, but I'll open up another one for you, Barbara.
And you think what? So the wealthy people who live in those areas are probably going to think, do you know what? It's just not worth the stress. They're going to move out, and they're going to move to other desirable places. So this can have a distorting effect on real estate in other parts of the country now, can't it? It's
Yep, and I have,
you know, and I think people are going to, homeowners won't be able to afford insurance. So if they get catastrophic damage, they won't be able to repair their house, so they won't be able to sell it. They'll lose their asset.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of that, people talking about that up in oh my goodness, now it's slipping my mind. Tennessee, and where that tornado
become uninsurable. Yeah.
And yeah, people might just lose because they lost everything, and yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? So some people probably will lose their property as well. Yeah, look at, so I guess we got some water there. Huh?
Looks about 5 feet up that entrance door.
Yeah, it looks like it's hitting the edge there. Should we turn on the volume?
We've got reports of water rescues going on. We've got reports of, water coming into houses. We've got lots of reports coming in Tampa Bay of significant flash flooding. I am going to go ahead and say now that we are going to end up with a catastrophic freshwater flash flooding event in Tampa. We will likely see a flash flood emergency issued here soon for areas like Tampa, Brandon, maybe all the way up there towards Temple Terrace. We've got an incredible amount of rain that's already fallen, and it's just going to keep coming.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could get that area down there.
Even if you don't live in a flood-prone area, this is the kind of storm that can send water into places it's never been before.
So, and then there's even talk about Texas. Though that's nerve-wracking because there's a lot of coastal areas there that are red. So hopefully that won't pan out, but there's people talking about that. There's supposed to be another one coming in after this. Did you hear that?
Really? No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's kind of what,
I know that I know the science says for it's a tiny increase in the temperature of the ocean is an exponential increase in the power of the storm, isn't it? It's
yeah, Lutz is a place
I heard though that
we'll also get in on some of that flooding. Right now, we haven't seen as much rainfall in Lutz as we have in Tampa.
Yeah, so so anyway, yeah, what else do we have? I think that about wraps it up for me. I don't know, hopefully this storm won't take too much out, and then the next one, and hopefully they don't move over towards Texas, and because then that's going to be a drain as well. And like that guy said on that very first clip that we watched, drain as much money as fast in as many ridiculous ways as you can.
Yeah.
And that's the other clip I was going to show was, did you see the different amounts of money that have been put to the different places all listed out here? Let me share this. This is hilarious, or not. This is horrible is what it is, but sometimes I have to laugh because that's all you can do. Let me see what that one is. So far this year, the United States has given whatever that number is, very big number,
24 billion.
24 billion to Ukraine. I mean, you can just go down the list here. It's just off the charts, all the way down to the bottom to 9,000 per illegal immigrant that has entered the U.S. And the Americans who have lost everything to Hurricane Helene will be getting $750 courtesy of FEMA.
That's the average payout, is that, for emergency?
Ouch, man. Oh, that's just harsh right there. But anyway, that's where we're at, so we'll see. We'll have to touch base next time and we'll see. Hopefully it's not too much damage and we'll have to keep moving forward. Are we froze?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. All right, yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. So you got anything else you want to leave them with, or we'll wrap it up here?
I think we need Neil's traditional farewell.
Right.
How does it go? Be kind, be helpful, be
great.
Neil, you listening?
That's better than being a jerk.
Yeah, just look out for your neighbors, and who's your neighbor? Well, anybody you come across who needs help.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Indeed. Well, thank you, Barbara, and everybody else in the chat. Gerald, Draper, Silverboy, Blues, Neil. Appreciate you all. And we will catch you back on the next one. We'll get Ian back here in a couple weeks, and I'll see you this Saturday. I'll probably do a pop-up here and talk about some of my new stuff here. So, all right, we will catch you on the next one.